before the Senate's Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee, which is also holding hearings on proposed rating system for records. And Frank Zappa is joining us today from Los Angeles. Frank, thanks for stopping by. What are your objections to a rating system for rock lyrics?
Well, first of all, I think that it's unfortunate that somebody had to choose this as a hobby, because it's the rating idea is nonsense. They claim that it is supposed to be something to help parents ascertain what is going to be good for their children, but it doesn't really help children. It helps country and western musicians.
What do you mean by that?
Well, look at the facts. They don't want to rate country and western records. They make all this noise about sex, violence, drugs, alcohol, the devil, the rest of that stuff. Country and western music contains all of these things. They don't want to put a rating on that particular type of music. It begins to smell like an affirmative action program to help the suffering multitudes in Nashville.
Well, would you admit, though, that perhaps the lyrics to rock and roll music are much more explicit than you would find in country western music?
Well, first of all, there's nothing wrong with sex. There's nothing wrong with talking about sex, and there's no scientific evidence to support the premise.
Well, that may well be, but to parents who may object to the lyrics discussing explicit sex in music, should they not have the right to at least see that material and be forewarned before their children get a chance to listen to it?
Of course they have the right to it, but you don't need a rating sticker to know what's in the record. If you see an album cover that has a guy with a buzzsaw blade between his legs, you don't need a sticker on it to know what's inside of it.
But that's not always the case. What parents are asking for, the Parents Music Resource, is some sort of a rating system, not to censor music, just to give them an idea as to exactly what it might contain.
That's not what they're asking for at all. What they've asked for is a lot of things that the record companies cannot deliver to them. Their demands are not just, it's not a nice little request. Their demands are really quite outrageous. One of the things they're demanding is that record companies, quote, quote, reevaluate the contracts of those groups who do things on stage that they don't approve of.
All right. Now they have, I suppose you might call it a hit list of the Filthy 15, which we had to clean up a bit here on CNN. But just to, give you an idea, you can see some of the titles here by the rock artists. And I don't know if you're a parent, Frank, but this wouldn't concern you at all?
What are you trying to say? I am a parent. I have 4 children. You're showing me on the monitor, I see a list of songs going by. Mm-hmm. What am I supposed to say about this?
Well, for example, the Prince record, where it's referred to as a woman who was masturbating with a magazine in a hotel lobby. I mean, that wouldn't bother you, that your children would hear that?
No, it doesn't bother me at all. First of all, very, very young children, it is medically known, very, very young children do masturbate. It's a fact of life. So what's the difference if you hear a song about it?
Well, young children do, but that doesn't necessarily mean that parents have to have that going out over the airwaves. That's the complaint you're hearing.
But the thing is that it's not a complaint about that record going out over the airwaves. That record that you're talking about hardly ever goes on the radio. The only time I ever heard that record on the radio was during a debate on WOR Radio, which is a news radio show in New York City. Right, where a bunch of disc jockeys who were on this debate, along with a woman named Candy Stroud, and the disc jockey said, "We don't play that record." So there is sort of I guess, a self-imposed censorship already existing, is there not, in radios? Well, let me point out a couple of things to you. First of all, the rating sticker that you referred to that was mine was not done in response to their demands. That sticker was put on albums a year ago before anybody made any demands. The other thing is that it has been industry practice for years for certain albums, when they go to a radio station, they have put together what they call clean cuts compilations, where only those songs from an album that are suitable for airplay are actually serviced to the radio stations. This has been going on for years.
Yeah, and the objections to music lyrics have been going on for years as well, long before rock and roll, as you well know, Frank. But the movie rating system, can you see some sort of comparison to that, where children now, parents can now say, well, no, you can't see this movie because it's R-rated or whatever it happens to be? I mean, is that troublesome to you as well? Yes,
it is. I don't like censorship, and no matter what the PMRC says about their program, it is censorship. Jesse Jackson said in a debate with Jerry Falwell on CNN not too long ago that you do not judge a tree by the bark it wears, but by the fruit it bears. What they are attempting to do is stop a certain type of information from going to a certain age bracket. And it is censorship, no matter what they say about it.
Is this the most intense form of censorship that you have seen during your music career?
No, as a matter of fact, I've been a victim of censorship throughout the time that I've been in the record business, and I've actually been to court about it before. I'll give you an example of some record censorship that nobody legislated and nobody asked for, but it actually happened to me. In 1967, I did an album called We're Only In It For The Money. One of the songs in this album was called Let's Make the Water Turn Black. Somebody at the record company that I was signed to decided that some of the lyrics in the song were objectionable, and so they took a razor blade and removed 8 bars of music from my song, and I didn't find out about it until the record was on the street. The lyrics that were removed were these: "And I still remember Mama with her apron and her pad feeding all the boys at Ed's Cafe." It took me 6 years to find out that the man in that record company believed that the pad was a sanitary napkin, and so he cut 8 bars of music out of that song. And when you're dealing with censorship things like this, you're going to be subjected to the neurosis of whoever it is on the committee that's making those decisions.
At the same time, is there anything at all that you would not want to have either in music video or on records? Is there any line that you wouldn't want to see crossed, perhaps that your children might be exposed to?
Well, I believe that a child deserves a good sexual education, and matters pertaining to sex should not be kept from children, because if you keep them sexually ignorant, you make them vulnerable to child molesters. And I think it's important that children learn as soon as they're capable of understanding, with the assistance of a parent, and there are plenty of good textbooks that are available for children that explain the mechanics of sex. They should know about sex, and they should be prepared to deal with it. Just because somebody makes mention of sexual practices in a movie or on a record or in a book or any form of entertainment is nothing to be afraid of if you've taken the time to educate your children. You know, I believe that the attitude of the PMRC is somewhere on the same line as those kind of people who demand that sexual education be taken out of schools. It's foolish.
Well, you're going to be testifying before a congressional committee, and you know the sort of pressure that can be brought by such testimony and such political pressure. What is your expectation of what is going to happen now with the record industry, the various labels producing? Do you expect them to go along with some sort of a rating system to prevent any sort of federal regulations or guidelines?
Well, I think this is an important thing to bring up at this time, that the RIAA, which is the Record Industry Association of America, on behalf of 80% of the major labels, has already volunteered to place a generic sticker on records that says something to the effect of parental guidance / explicit lyrics. I don't even agree with them doing that, because the reason that they have done it is because these women have used their husband's powerful committee to extort the record industry, leaving broad hints that if they don't do what the women want, that the husbands who run the committees are going to kill record industry legislation dealing with tape royalties and record piracy. And I don't think that they would have even gotten that little condescending offer from the RIAA if there hadn't been that kind of legislative extortion involved in it. And I think that it's a terrible thing that these wives are using the machinery of government to take a certain industry and abuse that industry.
Well, I know you've been debating them, but at the same time, is there no understanding how some parents may feel about this? And in that respect, is there no understanding on your part that, well, maybe perhaps there should be some form to let parents know what is on these records and videos?
Well, the fact of the matter is that the things that they're complaining about, it's like they've invented this mythological beast, and now they're going to offer you consumer guidelines on how to handle it and how to destroy it. Their services are totally not required. The industry is perfectly capable of taking care of itself and putting whatever content needs to be put in an album. Remember, some of the things that they're complaining about have sold 9, 10, millions and millions of copies. And the reason they sell is because somebody wants to listen to it.
Frank Zappa, thanks for joining us today. And we'll be back right after this.